So in my last video, we have successfully implemented the dependency and the permission in the manifest file. Now is the time when we will be using the Volley API literally in the Android coding. So let's see how this particular thing is going to work. First, whenever we are working on Volley, we need to create our data source in the form of web page in internet, where from the Volley will be fetching the data or forwarding the data. For that reason, I am using a free domain hosting site called 000 web host. And over there, I've created a folder called Volley, and inside that, I have a resource called one.php. So let's go and check it out over here. Here it is. This is the web service which I'm running in the 000 web host. So if I scroll down over here and if I click the upload file option, I'm going to see the resource which is available in my account, which I'm trying to access through the help of my Android application. So I have a folder called Volley. As I click inside this, I'm supposed to get the file called one.php. Oh no, it is not one.php, it is welcome.php. And that's the mistake what I have written over here. And because of that reason, it was showing me the message page not available. So that means your resource availability has to be correct. So instead of writing one.php, I will write welcome.php. That's the thing which I should write. Okay. So at first, I have to write the string variable where I will be writing the HTTP URL which we are trying to access. So if you see it properly, I'm inside my account in the 000 web host. There I have got a folder called Volley, and inside that I have a file called welcome.php. So you can create an account in this free domain hosting site, and then you can implement PHP for accessing the service. So the string variable will be storing the URL. Once you have done that, then to connect the page, it might take some time so that the user should understand that the resource is trying to be accessible. I'm making use of a progress dialog, which will keep on showing you the progress until you connect the resource, and then you return back the data. Okay, so we'll see that how this is going to work. Now coming to the Android part, in Volley, there are two special classes which we need to work on. The first class is called RequestQueue. The RequestQueue class has got two functionalities. It is the class which is responsible to set up the basic network service. As we all see in last video that Volley implement the network support library. So basic network support library which will be taken care of by RequestQueue. Along with that, to generate a memory block where the data will be stored, it requires something called caching. Okay, so that means the first time when the Volley service will be called, this particular resource will not be available. At that point of time, the cache miss actually has taken place. So every time you're trying to access the resource, it will be checking that the resource is there in the cache or not. For the first time, the resource won't be there, so that will be a cache miss. And after it is successfully able to access the resource, it will register the link in the cache itself, so that the next time it would be taking much less amount of time for availability of this particular resource. And that time it will be a cache hit because it's already been registered within the cache. So network support library and cache are the two concerns of this particular class, but this particular class is not aware that which resource it has to access. And for that reason, we come to the next class called StringRequest. It is responsible for receiving or fetching data from the service and also from the user end. We will see that how this particular class will be instantiated. Over here, if you let me show you the preview of the interface, so how the thing would look like. I've got a button over here. So this button will be responsible to bring some data from a web page. We will see how this particular data will be fetched. And there are two other buttons which we will see in upcoming videos. Let's come to the XML part. Over here you find the ID of the button is given, but no on-click interface is not called. So let's come to the main activity. After the instantiation of the widgets, here again I'm initializing my progress dialog box. I created a reference initially, but not the initialization, and a message has been generated over here. So the first thing is you have to instantiate the request queue, and for that reason we are creating a new request queue, and that will be associated with this particular activity. So that means multiple activity will be able to generate its own request queue, and there where the thread handling will be taking place. Now, when the user will be clicking the first button, it will give a call to the interface onClick, which consists of an abstract method called onClick. I mean to say the interface name is onClick listener and the abstract method is onClick, and within which I have given a call to a customized method called send receive. That's the method which I have chosen. And once the call comes to this particular method, the progress dialog box will be activated. So let's see what the method send receive has got to do. Here we are basically initializing a string request, and you need to be very careful when you initialize string request because it has got at least certain number of parameters. The first parameter tells me the encryption type that will be used for sending and receiving data by the Volley API. Request.method.post. It has to be uppercase. The next URL or the next parameter tells me the link which it is supposed to access. That means this particular URL I've already instantiated over here. If you see, this is the HTTP URL that it will be trying to access. So that has to be properly defined. So that's the second argument. The third argument tells me that how to receive the data. So for that reason, there is a class called response. Let me go inside and check it out. There's a class called response. Inside this class, there is an interface called listener. See, there's an interface called listener. And this interface has got an abstract method called onResponse whose body is not defined, and that's what I'm supposed to define it. So when the control will come to this particular function, remember this function is responsible to receive the data from the URL. Okay, here I'm not sending any data, here I'm receiving the data. So a particular data will be there in this particular URL. So if you are eager to know what data is there in the URL, let's come to this particular page and let me open this page, then only you will be able to view it. So I'm been sign off from this. Let me sign in again. This is something which you will be taking care of when we are working on 000 web host. If you're not accessing the resource for some point of time, the session termination will be taking place. So let's get into the Volley folder, and here is the file. Let me open the file, edit, and this is the contained echo message is there. Swaroop welcoming you to a web service. This particular message will be the return message that this particular response listener is going to come across, and that is what will be displayed in the text view, and the data will be getting stored in the argument, and then later on it will be set text in the text view. And while the response comes to this particular abstract method, then the progress dialog box will be hidden. But you know that there can be some mistake also, as you can see over here. That means the resource which I was trying to access initially was not appropriate, which I later on modified it. So at that the time when there is some mistake takes place, some abrupt situation takes place, then is the time when the error listener is going to work. So same thing over here also. If the response is the class, the error listener is the interface that consists on abstract method on error response. So that error response you will be generating. So if that part get activated, then the dialog box will be hidden. I mean to say it will be dissolved, and then the message will be displayed over here, and then you stop the string request or the request queue because that connectivity was still open. There's no point of keeping it open, so you're closing it. So the string request got initialized, but the string request is now independent. It has to be associated with the request queue, and that's the line where you're doing it. So request queue followed by the add method and the string request. So request queue is responsible for generating the network support, responsible for generating the queue. String request knows which resource to access and then where to save the data. So combiningly they are going to work together. Let me restart the application once again because I did bring some change in my app, and here I started once again. The resource is already there and it has been correctly mentioned. So I will be reading this particular message in my text view. So let me close this one, and the app is in the words of displaying, right? So what I will be doing is that I will click on this particular button. As I do that, progress dialog box takes place, and exactly this was the message that was there in this particular page. It got displayed. So you saw that initially the resource was incorrect, then the message was different, and now the resource has been available and the data has been displayed. So I can see that from this particular video how to access Volley, StringRequest and RequestQueue. The concept is clear, and this particular video was responsible for receiving data from a URL. So in the next video I will be sending data from the app to the web service. So until my next video, have a nice time. Thank you.